First of all is that we do have some smaller organizations that don't have enough employee base to follow full accounting standard under the GASB standards. And we need to figure out how we're going to address each of those organizations, because it's just not one. We have some that just have 2 or 3 or 4 people there, and that's not enough people to handle the money and to be accountable for the money at the same time. And that's for the receivables and the payables. So we need to develop something to overcome that, to protect the taxpayers' money. The second one is what we have. I mean, you've already stated there's some state law issues. You've stated there's some internal values. You know, they had documents to follow and they didn't do them. They went beyond that. So what is happening with those? What's happening with the state law issue? They're waiting for us to determine what FELE is. Okay, and what are we doing, or are we following through with the rest? At whatever levels they go to, because there are different levels.
You got 2 things. One, FDLE will look at whether they think there's anything criminal, and then the second thing is, Dan and I are looking. I do think we have real, if nothing else, I think we have some civil issues, but I got to make sure I get that package tied up before I bring that to you.
Sure, and it just seems, you know, paying somebody by the hour and then the bill ends up being, you know, well over $10,000. That seems like you should have contracted that job out. You know, those kind of things are just, you wonder. You found a lot of stuff here. Thank you for that. I can only imagine that we'll be finding more. Is there a standard recommendation that would be coming that you would give us, or something that we would do? I think that's internal standards, actually, because we have to put it in place.
I'm going to make a recommendation that myself, Charlene, and have Bernadette look at it in DM's office and make sure we're all in agreement, and it will be procedural.
I mean, this may be hundreds of thousands of dollars, but there may be other cases in which unintentionally there may be $5, $10, $25, or $1,000. You know, but the fact is that we have to have those check and balance systems in place.
I think you're going to treat everybody the same. And so I think you have to have policies. And I also have to, you know, I do think I have a feel for where the council is, and this council may feel differently than previous councils about how that money is to be handled philosophically and from a guideline standpoint. So, and I'll be making recommendations that we all support. But I'm not ready to do that because we haven't finished digging.
No, but I think that I agree, but we're talking about one, but we still have a general principle that we have other organizations through no fault of their own. They're just not large enough to be able to handle the full checks and balances that are required under the GASB standards. So we need to do something about those, and that's not this specifically. Actually, it is this one as well, but there are others out there. So, okay, thank you very much. So, thank you very much for a job well done, Charlene. I know you know that this is your second job career again. You're here, you are over there, and I do understand that you would feel, you are there, not feel like you are there. So thank you for that. And I do think we probably need to look at each of our different organizations and make sure that we have adequate checks and balances in place so that we can help them achieve that, just for their own safety. I mean, it's just fact, it's a government standard, so we need to be in compliance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. Ms. Cusack.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Bernadette, for a very, very thorough report. And I thank you, Mr. Chair, for indicating that we have this dialogue here today. I think it's important as members of this council that we are very much in tune to what is going on with these ad authorities, because we are ultimately responsible. And so I think that, Mr. Chair, this dialogue and this discussion here today, even though we had discussion, we heard the report yesterday, but we had no comments and no dialogue. And so thank you for leading us in this direction today. My question it indicates as a recommendation that we would have background checks done on members of the ad authorities. And we have vacancies on those ad authorities right now. And so I need some direction as to where we're going, how we're going to do that. And it also indicated that those members that are on need to have the same thing. So are we going to have some dialogue on that, or are we going to keep these vacancies open until we make some decisions? Or give me some, help me understand where we're heading.
Actually, let me just respond to that, because we did take off the ad authority board further so that we can put something in place. So those appointments have not been put back on the agenda, and they won't be put on the agenda until we have something more specific.
You say we had?
We haven't put it back on the agenda. There has been a couple of times it's come up, but because of the fact, in fact, a couple of them were continued, I think, even from council members.
That's correct.
And I don't think that we should put them on there until we can know what our direction to the board members will be. And I couldn't agree with you more. We've got to educate the board as to what their responsibilities are.
And are we going to consider the recommendation as it relates to the members that we have on the board? Because that was a part of the recommendation.
I see where you're going. That's a little different, yes. I agree.
And just to interrupt, that was our recommendation, that all existing authority board members and anyone in the future.
That's correct.
Yes.
And that's why I'm asking that
Across the
question.
board, all advertising authorities, because really, it's kind of an aha moment. You know, when we went through this and thought, well, you know, that probably would have been a really good idea from the very beginning with all of them.
So what you're saying is that even the board members that we have on the other ad authorities right now, we should start that process.
I want to know, are we going to start that process? That was a recommendation. I need to,
I think
Mr.
that's
Eckers to tell
the county
us
council
something?
needs to
I mean,
take that
we need to
action.
have some action.
Yeah, we'll make the motion.
I want to hear some discussion. I want, from legal, what,
Mr.
Mr.
Eckers?
Eckers, help me with this.
Existing.
The existing members of the ad authority, are we in position today to recommend that they have background checks as recommended by the audit?
It's certainly in order. You know, the difference, one thing that you may wish to consider is in implementing this recommendation is, I don't know if this would temper the auditor's judgment, but one recommendation she made, the idea of certain members signing off on things is, if you change the procedures, then you may change your judgment about the necessity for background and credit checks. But until you do that, the motion certainly would be in order.
I think that's a very good point that Mr. Eckert made. Our concern is because this really is unique. The advertising authorities are the only group of people that you all appoint where they ultimately have fiduciary responsibility for money. And so as long as they are going to have that fiduciary, they have the fiduciary responsibility, you have the ultimate responsibility. And so it's just one of those things that I think that anyone who is fiduciary responsible for money, that it's certainly worth considering doing that. But if you change your process and there was not any reason, if they weren't fiduciaries of money, well, maybe then, that was my main concern.
There are always going to be fiduciaries. I'm saying that there's the procedures may insulate them from handling of money. And I don't know if that's a distinction that's meaningful to the auditors or not, but regardless, until you do that. In most cases, it's in the high. I doubt that they would ever have occasion to handle money. But to your question, Ms. Cusack, that motion's in order today or at a future point in time after you collect your thoughts and make other recommendations.
The one advertising authority that we've just had this audit done on, I would make a motion that we would do that for that one authority, simply because we have a audit report that indicate that we ought to be doing something in this line. And we've not had an audit on any of the other two. So I'm not sure if we want to make that distinction at this time, or if we want to just wait and kind of think about it and see where we're going to go, Mr. Dean, and have this on our agenda for another time
That's what I would,
we've gathered more information.
that's what I would suggest, because what I think Dan's getting at is, I may recommend some things, I know I will, that will put checks and balances in and take, they may see it as taking some of their authority away. I see it as some protection. And if you do that, then while they have fiduciary responsibility, it may not be as direct in terms of, if they follow bidding procedures, then they're not as involved in it as they once were. So that could have an effect. The other thing, though, is if you believe that all members on these boards, which even if they don't spend the money, recommend to do serious expenditures, like in the case of Haw, they recommend things and then they turn over to CVB. Well, to me, it's pretty much the same thing. And so you may say that we want them to have a background check. I don't think that's a problem. And if you tell us that you'd like to do that, I would think that most of those people would have no concerns with that, and we would do that through our HR department. What I think that they need beyond that, which I know I'm going to recommend, but we have to figure out how we do this. I think anyone that goes on these boards especially, and I think even some of our other boards, really needs at least some kind of class, at least a one-day session on what's the sunshine law, what can you do, what can't you do. I think some of this is you get people that are well-intentioned and maybe they're used to running a private business. And I'll be honest with you, one of the interesting things that I find in my occupation is how many citizens are surprised at the loophole or the hoops you have to jump through to spend public money. I think in some cases they come away thinking, wow, I didn't know you had to do all that. But it's a big surprise to them about all the things that you are not allowed to do. And I think sometimes it'd be helpful if we put them through some kind of class, because I don't think they know.